said.
That's funny. Hi, everybody. It's Katie Harris, owner and CEO of NursePreneurs, and I'm here with Dr. Debbie Lewis. Debbie, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Okay, so my name's Debbie Lewis. I am a family nurse practitioner and have been for quite a few years. Um, my role right now, I'm a full-time faculty teaching in a family nurse practitioner program. That was always my goal, to be a teacher, so I love it. But to keep clinically active, I have my own telehealth practice. It's a primary care family practice, integrative medicine. And so that's what I do from home is my telehealth visits. My background, I've been a nurse for years, and how I got into the entrepreneur arena was just looking for something as a nurse that I knew I could do without going through agencies. So that's kind of my background as far as nursing.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about telehealth. So you're a nurse, but you're also a nurse practitioner. So you have prescriptive rights, but
Right,
in the state of Texas, which is not very nurse practitioner friendly.
right. I don't think it ever will be, but anyway. So in order to practice on my own or to the full scope of my practice in Texas, I still have to have a supervising physician. So, that's a paperwork and a money deal. So I have a supervising physician who's actually not even in the state of Texas, but is licensed in Texas. She's always available should I have questions or problems. But my telehealth business, it's a primary care, um, and I practice like integrative medicine. So, in other words, I do the traditional um, medication management and things like that, but I also do it from a functional medicine perspective, meaning looking at the root cause of the problems. I think that the majority of our chronic illnesses are based on inflammation. And so that's why I say I work on the root cause. Um, Telehealth is a great way to increase access for patients. They love it. I love it too, and I think telehealth is so underused.
Yes.
It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, it does. So what is one of your more popular services in telehealth?
My most popular service is weight loss. So I do a weight loss program, medical weight loss. So I prescribe an injectable medication that they use once a week, along with a comprehensive program. So you can't just take medicine and lose weight, right?
Darn.
It's right. If that was it, I'd be a millionaire. Um, but it's nutrition, it's support, it's coaching, and all of that. So that's what I do in my practice with weight loss is supplement the medication with education, meal plans, things like that, and really just stay with my patients. I'm really into um, communicating and establishing a relationship so that the patient um, gets the kind of care they need and they want. So they set their goals and they tell me how they eat, and then I adjust to that.
Cool.
Hmm.
So I'm going to throw a curveball question at you
Okay.
and see your thoughts on this. So there's been a lot of chatter about like AI and Chat PT and whatever it's called. And recently I had experienced it was some automation where if you said how much weight you want to lose, the computer would determine, in how many days you could lose this weight, how many calories you should eat, and then it calculated that, put things into recipes if I chose like vegan recipes, then gave me a shopping list and launched it on Amazon, and all I had to do was click buy, and all the ingredients would get shipped to my house. Is that something you pair up with?
Well, I'm not opposed to AI, but for something like that, yes, because you know what I am opposed to it because what I found working with patients is that you can set up great meal plans, calories, all of that. That's not sustainable. They can't do it. As soon as they go back to eating regularly or feel like they have to have a cheat day, they start gaining the weight back. So it's really more than just not eating as much. It's what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, all of that. But in defense of the AI, I found that I can use that chatbot to write a blog post for me in 30 seconds that would usually take me so long. And really, they're very good, and you get to edit them, so why not? But I think there's a future for that, not for healthcare, but
Yeah.
for marketing, maybe.
Yeah, for marketing. Yeah, because there's some things that, there's a lot of basic stuff out there that people just need to know, and you need to have it posted, and you can't, obviously take other people's work and pass it off as your own. So,
Right.
the basics, I think the chatbot has been really good for. What I think
Mhm.
people crave is, and even though it's can be contentious at some points, but we crave people's opinions and experience and kind of like bringing it all together and what actually does work and doesn't work.
Mhm.
And that's something that chatbot doesn't seem to be quite able to do.
Well, yeah, because it's not human, so it can't do
Right.
that. And I think the patients that I have the most success with in the weight loss are the ones that talk to me every week.
Hmm.
They weigh and they say, "Oh, I lost 2 pounds." I don't want you to lose 15 pounds in a week. I want you to lose 2 pounds a week. Um, so you have to be patient. But yeah, most of my patients on the weight loss program, the least amount they've lost is 20 pounds in a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and they feel good. That's the thing. I had one person tell me that not only has she lost weight, but she can wear clothes she hasn't worn in years, and she has never felt better mentally and physically.
So
So
are you
that's a big
wait,
thing.
you're doing counseling and as well and helping them to realign their lifestyles to fit their kind of their goals in addition to the medications that facilitate the whole process.
Right. And that's why, a lot of these people are starting up businesses like, oh, sign up here and, our doctor will prescribe your medication. Yeah, it's a one-time thing and they're trying to sell medicine. So I'm more of a wellness package person. Um, so yeah, everybody has individual needs. And I think that's the whole thing. Tailoring the medicine and the program and everything to each person's lifestyle. I can't set your goals for you. You have to set them so you can meet them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's actually sounds like a combination of like nurse coaching,
Mhm.
wellness, and everything done on Zoom.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Um, but it's HIPAA compliant because I use an electronic record and it has the video in there, so it's not just a normal Zoom.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good note to make.
Yeah, HIPAA's a big thing, so we got to be
Yes.
careful.
Yes. Yes. Because there's a lot of rogue people out there doing
Mhm.
whatever just because they can doesn't mean that they should or they're allowed to. But there's a lot of businesses that kind of operate under the radar. So it's something to be very cautious about because those are the people that are going to be made examples of in the future, and they kind of ruin it
Correct.
for everybody else because that's when they start, making really hard laws.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, like it's just like in school. When you go to school and then, a few people cheat on the test, then it gets harder and harder. So everybody pays the price for the problem people,
Right. Exactly.
right?
Now, also, you do staffing agency. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the way I got started in that was long ago. I was an RN and I was working for an agency doing home care. And then one day I saw on their desk when I was in the office at the agency how much they actually charged for the visits I was making. And I thought, oh, that's not what I'm getting paid. So why are they charging all this money? And I'm only getting a portion of that. They wouldn't have the business if it wasn't for me. So I just decided on a whim to go to the company that the agency was contracting with, the hospital system, um, to the person who gave me my assignments every day through the agency, but from the hospital. And I went and talked to her and I said, let's get rid of the agency and I'll just contract with you and you send me your business and I'll go do the visits. And so that's how I got started. Um, and so now I counsel people on how to do that themselves, nurses. And I think that my biggest takeaway from working with nurses in this process is everybody has a big vision, which is not bad. It's good to have a big vision, but don't start out with the big vision. Start small. And that's where the beauty comes from. That's what kind of meshes it all. And then you can grow huge if you want to, but don't go in thinking, I'm going to build a huge staffing company and have 50 nurses work for me. That's overwhelming, right?
Yeah, that's paralyzing. Just the thought of that, I'm like, nope, not doing that.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you've never done business before. That's a whole learning curve in itself.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've been teaching these nurses for several months now. Have any of them actually started a staffing agency?
So the ones who have the smaller are willing to take it small to start. What they've done is gotten a contract for themselves. So rather, one thing I say is you're a nurse, but you're a business owner if you're going to do this. So you have to kind of separate that and you have to change your mind, right? I'm not just going in begging for a job. I'm going to get the job. So I teach them that. And then several of the nurses that I've worked with have been able to go and just create their own schedule with one hospital. So in other words, they're like PRN nurses, but they're not PRN for the hospital. They're through their own company. So they're independent contractors. That's what it all boils down to. So the beauty of that is that on the nurse's part, you're working for yourself. You get so many tax deductions because you are working for yourself and you have a business, and you're able to charge a higher rate. So you're making more than you would have made just doing plain PRN for a hospital. You're owning your business and you have tax deductions and you choose your schedule.
That's a big
yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think that if more nurses would realize they could do it, that's how we're going to change nursing and healthcare because, it's not going to change otherwise. I know that you talked to, was it Rebecca Love last week or a couple of weeks ago? She's my ally on LinkedIn. And we talk about that a lot. And it's like, we all know how to change nursing, but nobody wants to hear our version of how to change it. Right? Because
That's
it's
so
not,
true.
it's not what the administrators want. And the reason I say that you have to start small is because hospitals have changed. It used to be, well, they used all the travel nurses and really went wild on that because they had to during COVID. And now they're all like, well, the nurses can't get rich. We've got to stop this.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Right? And so, first of all, they try to cut the amount they're going to pay. Second of all, now hospitals have said, oh, we're not using travelers anymore. We're not using agency. Well, common sense would tell you if you haven't hired 200 nurses, you're going to have to do something.
Yeah, let's just
right?
piss off the nurses we have and they can run short staff.
Yeah. And that's what nurses are doing, right? That's what the strikes are about, getting better staffing ratios. So I think if nurses just realize their power, we have so much power.
We do.
We really do.
We really do. And it's amazing. And I always love that story when you talk about it because I always remember I had a nurse friend. This was like 25 years ago, and we were on night shift together, and he was talking about starting a staffing agency. And I was like, oh, that's stupid. Like, who would do that? There's already enough staffing agencies out there. And, I trudged on for the next 20 years and he went off and made millions. So, and especially 25 years ago, like he certainly would have been in place to capitalize on all the ups and downs of nursing over the years. And that's, there is always ups and downs, with any business or any industry. And COVID just happened to be one of those times that if you had been positioned to go in as an agency, it would have been that would have been that for gold.
You would have been set for life, right?
Yeah. But it's going to happen again. It's just a matter of like when and where and why, and just being ready for those things when they happen.
So something that I see now that is happening in healthcare is the focus on home care. And I think if we look at that right now, like I don't have a crystal ball, but based on everything that I'm seeing and that I'm reading, home care is going to blow up. It's going to be a huge industry. Home care already is busy and they can't find staff, but it's going to get to the future. What hospitals want to do is to move care out of the hospital and into the home. So it's this whole healthcare at home movement. And there's really a lot of push for that with all the technology that's available now. So for nurses, the opportunities are crazy. There's so many.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I apologize for calling you Facebook user, but that's what came through my screen here because I guess you're not signed in, but that's fine.
Oh.
It says, I love this concept, Debbie. I just started doing this in a different type of setting. Now I'm in a space where I need other nurses. And this might get into some stuff that you may not be able to answer, but would love to know how you acquired other nurses to work with you, and did you bring them in as independent contractors or employees? That's always a loaded question, I think.
Well, so that goes back to the start small and not big. Okay, so if you're going to do a staffing agency and you're going to be the only nurse at first, you're going to provide super care, most amazing. You're going to do a great job because you have to be better than everybody else, right? So you can get your market share and be competitive. So when I did my staffing for home care, I did a lot of the staffing myself because I knew I could control the work product. Once I saw that the volume was increasing and I needed more nurses, I advertised for nurses. But you have to be very careful that you only hire nurses that you know how their work is going to be. In other words, if you have friends that want to help you and want to work for you, that's perfect because you can know what kind of nurse they are. If not, then you advertise, and you have to be very picky very selective on the nurses that you choose because these nurses are going to be the face of your business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your brand. It's huge. And I remember when I was doing the concierge nursing, I had a lot of the nurses at the unit be like, oh my gosh, please call me when you need somebody. I'd love to do this PRN, blah, blah, blah. And I remember one particular night shift nurse was like, oh my God, please call. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
She was like nasty Nancy, to all the patients and stuff, or she just was seriously burnt out. And I'm like, that's not going to work with this at all. And you can get that feeling. I would definitely go with your gut and your intuition. But also it helps to come up with some non-standardized interview questions. Like it doesn't matter like where they worked or what unit or what experience. In a lot of ways, what matters is how do they get along with people? How do they go the extra mile? Are they willing to like figure things out if they don't know it? Like those are, to me, that's more important than where they went to school. Like I could care less or what their GPA is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What kind of nurse are you? Are you empathetic and caring, and do you communicate well? Or do you sit at the desk and talk about how much money you're making as an agency nurse? That irritates everybody. We know that from working with nurses like that.
Right.
The other part of the question, I think, said, are they independent contractors or employees?
Yes.
So you can choose how to do that. Independent contractors, that's probably the easiest way to go because then, you're not paying any benefits or anything. But if you make them employees of your company, then you do have to take out withholding taxes. and pay workman's comp, and that comes out of their pay. And you can get an agency to help you with that, like an accounting firm. You can even use QuickBooks. It's really, if you have time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can make them an employee of your company, and that's probably the better way to go, because if they're independent contractors, then they might be available, they might not, but you can have a little more control over them if
Yeah.
they're employees.
I mean, if you start telling them what they have to do and when they have to show up, then they're no longer independent contractors.
Right.
And if you need that, I mean, if it's one thing, if you have a pool of nurses and you throw out and say, hey, I need somebody on Thursday from, 11 to 7 who wants it, and then somebody grabs it, and then it's also state dependent. So the state of California is always special about everything. So you really have to look into that state about independent contractors because they've got some quirky rules. And then the other thing I would say is, making people employees is a little bit more expensive for you, the company, but it's not really that hard. Like Debbie said, she used QuickBooks, we use Gusto, and I was so opposed to employees for the longest time. I wanted everybody to be independent contractors because I didn't want to have to deal with filing state taxes or local and blah, blah, blah. But Gusto does everything for me. It's I literally just hit pay me now and it pays me and everybody else. And they file all the regulations and that kind of nonsense. But it is more expensive for me to hire people as employees.
Yeah, that's true. And then the other thing with as an agency, you have to be a benefit to whoever you contract with, right? You have to take away their problems. And so one of the things that I would take away from a hospital or other company is to do all of the employee kind of stuff they don't like to do, right? That takes time and money. So in other words, like offer trainings for your nurses. You can get a video off YouTube on bloodborne pathogens. You can create courses for them or link to articles for them to read to get continuing education. You can keep all of their records as far as maybe like feedback you've gotten from places they've worked. You have all their licensing, when it expires. And anytime a hospital or anyone you contract with has a problem with a nurse, you've got everything for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I offer to people that I contract with is, I know you don't like to handle the problems. That's what takes time, right? So I tell them, if you have a problem with any nurse that I give you to work for you, please call me directly. I will take care of the problem. So they don't have to do any counseling or anything.
Oh my God, that is so huge because a lot of people, most people, or I shouldn't generalize that way, but a lot of managers don't know how to have fierce conversations with people. And I'll be honest, like I'm one of them. Like I hired somebody to have fierce conversations with my employees because I don't like doing it. And it's money well spent.
Well, I know from my perspective, when I look at it as this is my business and you're the face of my business, I can have a fierce conversation with you if you're messing up my business.
Right.
And the beauty of that is that, you can do it in a very human, respectful way. And then you keep a record of it. And, I found that nurses actually respect that you do that. You don't like belittle them and berate them. You just say, hey, here's what the hospital said. What's your side of it? Work it out.
Right.
And then you keep a record of that and you get back to the hospital and say, okay, so I met with the nurse, I counseled her, and here's our outcome.
Right.
That won't happen again.
It is all the way you frame it because that's what, this woman says. She's like, I love it when we can, we go in and it looks like a negative situation and we turn it around and everything's better. And she has done like an amazing job with that. And it's all about the way you frame that conversation. Like we're going to, figure this out. And a lot of times it is just miscommunication or lack of communication or lack of training, whatever the case may be. And it's an easy fix that doesn't have to blow up in everybody's face.
Right. And if you're available to do that as at the contracting agency, then you can head off big problems before they become big problems.
Right. But you're also, I mean, if I were the nurse manager or the whoever's calling the staffing agency and I had to choose between 5 different agencies and you deal with problems and the other ones don't, I mean,
Mhm.
that's a no-brainer. So that is good marketing.
I think another thing we talked about before, you and I, is the importance of answering the phone.
Yes.
So one thing I tell everybody is maybe the only benefit someone sees in your company over someone else's is you answer the phone. It sounds so simple, but think about being the staffing coordinator at a hospital, having to fill a shift, and you have to put in your notice to all these different agencies, and you wonder, will they call you back? But if I could pick up the phone and call you, your agency, and you say, yeah, I'll have someone there for you. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. I'll let you know the name of the nurse as soon as I get that figured out. Hey,
So the nurse that asked that question, she posted another thing, and she actually does construction site nursing, which, oh my God, mind blown! Like,
wow.
never heard of such a thing. That is amazing. Like, that's why I love nursing. There's no two things that you can't put
See?
nursing together
Uh-huh.
with. Yeah, construction site, NASCAR nursing. There's like probably Formula One nursing and Disney nursing. Like, oh my God, there's so many amazing
Cruise
things.
nursing. Look at
Cruise
that. You
nursing.
could be the nurse on the cruise ship.
Exactly. Or NASA nursing. Like, there's just no two professions that don't go with that nursing doesn't go with. Like, I just can't think of anything.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what I mean. There's so many possibilities. What I see for the future, if I had time, this is what I would do. Um, but I don't need another business, is to do just like a senior care program. So you do a consult on the safety of the home, just do a safety evaluation. Then, okay, develop a plan for them. What do they want to do? You can do this for patients that are elderly and want to stay at home, or you can do it for families who don't live near their elderly family members, but the family wants to stay. They want to stay at home. That's what everybody wants when they get old. They don't want to go somewhere else. They want to stay in their home. So anything you can do to help them stay in their home, you're going to have a huge market. It's all about how you approach it.
Right. Absolutely. All right, Debbie, thank you so much for sharing this with us. This was awesome. And, if any of you guys are interested in working with Debbie, she does teach staffing agency, and she also is one of our coaches in our programs. So she helps you out with your telehealth, and we help you out with the marketing. And would love to. Another person said, I love it. I spend as much time as I like with my folks, way better than hospital life. They're herding cattle in the CVICU and ER. That's so true.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I missed out on home care because I worked neurocritical care until I started my business. And then it was like, why did, I hear all these nurses talking about home care and what a better life it was. And I'm like, I totally missed out on that. But
Yeah, it's really rewarding to take care of a patient in their environment. It's so different.
yep.
Hmm.
All right, Debbie. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Take care.